Even cars can be bought at the same price or even lower price than a wheelchair. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're talking about my experience when I bought my first private wheelchair that's not from the NHS. There's wheelchair services and under the NHS. The NHS is a national health service in the UK. The wheelchair service that someone goes to depends on the borough they live in. Since I was a child, all the wheelchairs I had were from the NHS. I had folding wheelchairs, apart from one which was a rigid frame wheelchair. At the time when I decided to go private, I was about to start my pharmacy foundation training at NHS Hospital Trust. So I needed a wheelchair that would be lightweight and easy for me to wheel myself. You also needed to be able to fold, for example in narrow spaces. I used the last wheelchair I had from the NHS for around 7 years. The NHS has a limited range of wheelchairs and the folding wheelchair they had didn't meet my needs, so that's why I looked into getting a wheelchair privately and I discussed it with the wheelchair services. Most of the brands of wheelchairs that I used were Quickie, so I checked out their supply online. So I went on their website and I checked some wheelchairs. I also looked at other brands of wheelchairs. In the end, I found a wheelchair that I liked called Quickie Xenon 2 folding wheelchair. But on the Motus Medical website, they don't actually sell the wheelchairs themselves, and if someone's interested, they have to express interest on a form. So I filled that form out and it linked me to a company called Motus Medical. So Motus Medical called me and we arranged a date for them to come to my house with a sample wheelchair for me to try. A man from Motus Medical came to my house with a sample wheelchair. It's a sample wheelchair, so it's not the right size, it's just like a generic size. But I tried it and I liked the wheelchair. Then he asked me what features I like on the wheelchair, like the colour. I chose the colour Brilliant Purple. He also asked me things like the side guards or not, handles, the type of wheels I would like, the foot plate and other areas like that. Most of the things I chose were advertised in the brochure, and other things he suggested to me would be good. I also asked him about warranty and he told me that under this time Motus Medical would repair any issues, and he said he would send me a copy of the warranty once everything had been sorted out. So after this, he told me he would send me a quote. So some days after he came, I received the quote and I was shocked because it was nearly £4,000 for a wheelchair. And that was really surprising because even cars can be bought at the same price or even lower price than a wheelchair. So it's really ridiculous that wheelchairs are so expensive. I paid the deposit and later on I paid the full amount. I was told that once I had paid the full amount I'll receive a copy of the warranty, but that didn't happen. Regarding the delivery of the wheelchair, there were a lot of delays and my wheelchair was delivered later than anticipated. So the first time, a date was arranged for the wheelchair to be delivered to me, and on that day, sometime afterwards, I was told that the van had broken down, so they wouldn't be able to deliver my wheelchair to me on that day. And that was disappointing. So another date was rearranged, and on that day, they gave another excuse about why they couldn't deliver it, so there were even more delays. So then a third date was arranged, and on that day, the hours had passed and my wheelchair still had been delivered, so I was emailing and calling them, and then the man told me that he would be late because he was delivering another wheelchair. So in the end, my wheelchair was delivered to me in the evening and I couldn't check and inspect my wheelchair because it was very late. I wasn't even expecting it to come at that time and I wasn't sure if it was going to even come to me. Also, I was about to start work a few days afterwards. Also, I got my cushion from the wheelchair services. Even though my wheelchair is private, they told me that they can still give me a cushion, so I discussed it with them and chose the cushion. 3 weeks later, after my wheelchair was delivered, I started having issues with the backrest. It was digging into my back and it was crumpling in some areas, and it was also very low quality. I realised that the backrest wasn't what I chose and it wasn't what was advertised in the brochure. This is the backrest that was on my wheelchair. I was also having issues with my brakes at that time. The brakes were too loose and they weren't holding properly. So I emailed Motus Medical about it and I attached photos. They arranged a date for someone to come out to my house. So the man came out to my house and he tightened my brakes and he also adjusted the backrest. I told him that the backrest wasn't what I chose, and he told me that the backrest in the brochure would cost me more money, and I was shocked because I wasn't told that, and that was the backrest I had chosen, but I wasn't given that backrest.
Soon after,
he adjusted everything. I still had more issues with the backrest. It was digging into my back and it was very uncomfortable. So I contacted them again and they arranged for someone to come out to my house. This time was a different person, and I told him about the backrest issues again, and he took off the backrest and there was very hard straps at the back of the backrest. He told me once again that the backrest I was referring to in the brochure would cost me more money. At the time I had my old NHS wheelchair, so I brought that out to show him because the backrest on that wheelchair was good quality and it didn't dig into my back and I didn't have problems with it. I used that wheelchair for 7 years. So he took it off and he was checking it out and he was comparing it to the one on my current wheelchair. He swapped over the backrest from my old NHS wheelchair to my current wheelchair. This is the backrest He also told me that he would get me a more padded backrest for free and I wouldn't have to pay for it. He told me to bring a sample to my house at another date and I'll be able to try to see if I liked the other backrest with more padding. Also at this time he tightened my brakes as well because they got loose again. So sometime after that he brought the sample backrest to my house. I tried it and it was good, so I told him that I want the backrest. He told me he would order it for me for free and once it was delivered he would let me know. So while I was waiting for the backrest to be delivered, I had issues with my wheels on my wheelchair and also the side guard. On the rims of my wheels, which is the outer part, there's an elastic type material and the rims had pierced in some areas. Also my side guard, there was an issue with that as well. So I emailed Motus Medical and I attached photos as well about the issues. They told me that none of these issues are covered under my warranty. They said I have to pay for the parts, labour, call out charge and also just other charges, and that was devastating and shocking to read that. Also at that time as well I found out that the backrest they told me would be free would no longer be free and they wanted me to pay for a service charge, a call out charge and also the cost for the backrest as well. And I emailed them back saying that this should be covered in my warranty and I was told the backrest would be free. I also asked them to send me the warranty again but they refused. They also made up terms and conditions that they never showed to me or mentioned before I got my wheelchair, during the order process and when my wheelchair was delivered to me. Also on the wheelchair there's not many parts, so if those issues that I was talking about were not covered under the warranty, then what would be covered under the warranty? So it was just very shocking and horrifying to read everything that they were saying. Yeah, I have a quote from part of the email and they wrote that I can provide a quote for this which would include the cost of the damaged items. The call out charge for the engineer £125 and labour £40 per hour. This is not covered under the warranty. They also wrote that they would send photos of my so-called damaged items to the manufacturer to see if there were any defects with it or if it was my fault, and they said they would let me know what the manufacturer had said. Also in one of the emails they had sent me a photo of my wheelchair when it was delivered to them supposedly, and in that picture it was evident that the backrest was audio crumpling in some areas, and I sent the photo to them again and I highlighted the places where the backrest had issues, but they were in denial on it and they didn't want to answer that. They also became very rude. My mum tried to call them on the phone and they were also rude on the phone. They didn't get back to me in the end regarding what the manufacturer said. I don't even know if they sent the pictures to the manufacturer because they didn't want to repair anything under my warranty anyway. They wanted me to pay for all these ridiculous charges and that wasn't fair, and I wasn't going to pay for all of the charges that they're asking me to pay for. So in the end they ignored me and they didn't get back to me. Also they're really friendly before this time, so it was really shocking to see how they were behaving. But at the time I didn't have time to keep fighting it and chasing it up because I was working very long hours. I would leave home very early in the morning and come back late in the evening, so I didn't have time to keep chasing up and fighting them. What I had to do was, for my brakes, I went to a bicycle repair shop and the person there tightened the brakes for me. The other things I tried to fix with my mom, but the issue on the rims of my wheelchair is still there and on the side guard as well. But thankfully I can use my wheelchair like that. Eventually I will have to find another company when these things need to be replaced or I need something additional. I'm still using the old backrest from my NHS wheelchair on my current wheelchair. Thank God I have my old NHS wheelchair with me, otherwise I would have had no backrest on my current wheelchair. Companies that sell wheelchairs and other mobility aids should stop ripping off disabled people and they should stop charging extortionate prices for their products. It's terrible how wheelchairs and other mobility aids are really expensive, and even cars can be bought at cheaper prices than wheelchairs. I don't recommend Motus Medical to any wheelchair users. My advice to any wheelchair users who are looking to get a wheelchair privately is to be cautious, do your research about the company and the type of wheelchair that you want to get, read reviews, and even though sometimes the reviews may be positive, you might end up having a bad experience. Also ask for a copy of the warranty before you purchase the wheelchair. If you know any other disabled people in real life or online that got a wheelchair privately, you can also ask them as well about their experience and what company they used. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like the video. Also leave a comment down below if you have any experiences about buying wheelchairs or your experience of using wheelchair services generally, and subscribe to my channel if you're new and hit the bell to get notified when I first upload new videos. I'll see you next time.